Hey, welcome back to Gold's Garage. So the subject of this video is the 406 race engine that I built for my son. This is Friday. He's coming down. He's on the way down here now. We're going to the dyno on Sunday, and it's going to be a family affair. My daughter's even coming to the dyno with us on Saturday. So we're going to dyno Mike's engine. I'm going to tell you all about that. Just a quick background, what's going on. This is Tony's 302, and we're just waiting for Bill to finish the heads, and the cam's on its way. We've ordered a camshaft, solid lifter, flat tappet, solid lifter camshaft for it, and we're going to talk a lot about more about that when we get it together. And Bill's got to finish the head work. So this is for you, Bill. July 27th, this engine's on the dyno, so I'm ready to put it together whenever you get me the heads and the camshafts. This is Todd Brown's 389 Pontiac. We've had it in many videos before. It's been sitting waiting for a dyno date. So we actually have 3 dyno dates in the month of July. And the 13th is Todd's coming down. We're going to take his Pontiac to the dyno and put it through the test. And Todd's coming for that. So look forward to that. So 3 dyno dates starting this Sunday, which is 2 days from now. So this is Mike's race engine. Just first of all, the headers are on like this because the heads are angle plug heads. The headers that I use are street headers, and I couldn't clear the spark plugs with the angle plug heads. So I had to use Daryl's sprint car headers, and they wouldn't clear the frame of my machine any other way than if I turned them upside down. So that's the only reason they're like that. So this engine's ready for the dyno. We'll be taking it there this Sunday once again and dynoing it. But a little bit of background about, I have talked about this before when I started the build. I just got it together, fired it up for the first time yesterday, and I'm going to fire it up for you at the end of this video. And so here's my thinking. My son's going to race what I call a Michigan modified. Northern Michigan and Northern Ontario have there's a couple tracks that he's focusing on. They have other tracks in that area where they race these modified open-wheeled cars. And typical engines for that, and I've been out of this for a while because the last series of racing we did was pro late models down here in Southern Ontario, and they were all 604 crate engines. So I wasn't building any engines for them because they're sealed engines and you can't build them. So we're back to that. So the way I understand it, and I'm 8 hours away, typically most of the engines that they're using are high compression, high RPM engines, 350s, 400s. A lot of guys are even using 427 small blocks. When I was racing up there, pro late or super, what they call super late model now, that pro late model's going on too. We actually had a 427 small block. So, and they're running engines, once again, high compression, high RPM on race gas. So this engine I built a little differently and based on my thinking, and it could be wrong. And I'm welcoming your comments. By the way, on the dyno, what we're going to do, one thing before I forget, as you can see, it's just got a conventional HEI distributor on it right now. One of the themes of this video on Sunday will be comparing an HEI distributor, that's a $100 ignition system, to an MSD ignition system, which we also have. So once we get done the tune, we're going to put an MSD 6AL system with a racing HEI or a MSD distributor, and see if it makes any difference. So my thinking is this engine actually could be a street engine. And the only differences would be, obviously, you have to use different valve covers and a different oil pan. It's got obviously a circle track or oil pan on it. And for obvious reasons, when you're turning left all the time, you need a specially designed pan to hold the oil around the oil pump. So other than that, this could be a street engine. It's got a hydraulic roller cam. Typically, most guys are using solid lifter camshafts. and this is a hydraulic roller camshaft. It's only 10.5 to 1 compression, so Mike's going to be able to use pump gas, and that's to me a big factor. Race gas is about twice as much, and you got to make sure you don't just buy it anywhere. You got to have an inventory of it and all that stuff. So he'll be able to run this thing on pump gas, and it's got fully balanced Eagle rotating assembly. I bought it from Eagle and then had Atchison machine balance it. The block's been square decked, line honed, everything else. It's got forged pistons with 1/16 ring package. So pretty good stuff in it, but it could be a street engine. And so YN single plane manifold. Now single plane manifolds typically better on a race car than on a street car because they work better at higher RPM and they don't work as good at low RPM. But that's actually going to work in our favor, I think. Here's my thinking. On these tracks, they're only a quarter mile, 3/8 mile. There's a couple tracks up there. I've raced on both of them. And one's actually 3/10 of a mile. So if you do the math, typically lap time is 14 seconds or so, 14 to 15 seconds. So that means that once you come out of the corner, you start getting on the gas, you're on accelerating for about 3.5 seconds on each straightaway, coming out of turn 2 and coming out of turn 4. And you are decelerating the other half of the time. So you're 3.5 seconds on the gas, 3.5 seconds in the corner, another 3.5 seconds on the gas. Do the math, that's 14 seconds for a lap. So, and during that time, you can't even, typically anyways, get on the gas full throttle because they're racing on an 8-inch treaded tire. So Bill Little actually ran the numbers of this engine on his computer program. And even at 4,000 RPM, I'm thinking Mike's going to come out of the corner at 4,000 or so. And he's going to hit the flag stand about 6,000, time to get on the brakes. And so even at 4,000 RPM, coming out of the corner, it's going to have well over 400 foot-pounds of torque. So the car only weighs 2,500 pounds. So that's only 6 pounds of car for foot-pound of torque in the engine. Here's the other clinker. Because it's a short track, such a short track, the typical gear ratios, they use quick change gears, are 6 to 6.5 to 1 final drive ratio. So if you take that even 400 foot-pounds of torque coming out of the corner times 6, that's 2,400 pounds. So you got just about, neglecting friction losses, 1 pound of car per foot-pound of torque coming out of the corner. And so how do you manage that? That's where the skill of the driver comes in, is getting on that throttle as early as he can, the handling of the car, getting it faced in the right direction so you can get the throttle down all the way. And in most laps, probably only have the throttle all the way down at best for 2 seconds. So that's the life this engine is going to live. It's going to make over, I won't make any exact predictions, but it's going to make over 500 pounds of torque, up higher around 5,500 RPM or so. But the WN manifold, the single plane manifold, softens the corners. And for that reason, I'm hoping that the equalizing factor being the 8-inch treaded tire, that this thing's going to work coming out of the corner. And once again, with the skill of the driver, he's still going to have more torque than he needs. It's a 406. Now, a lot of his competitors are 406. Some are even bigger. And so they're going to be making lots of power on the straightaway as well. So we'll see how that works. We are going to dyno it. My carburetor specialist, Dave Forrest, is coming with a couple carburetors. We're even going to experiment with a vacuum secondary carburetor, a Holley 800 Holley vacuum secondary carburetor, which also softens getting on the gas. The other trick, of course, if you can, is to use traction control, but that's not legal. Doesn't mean people aren't using it, but we're not going to be using it anyways. And we don't really know of anybody that is, but obviously that's a problem in the industry where the same technology that's used in your street car to avoid spinning the tires can be used on a race car, and it makes the car a lot easier to drive. Essentially, if you do have traction control, which is not legal, but if you have it, you can, as soon as you see the straightaway, put your foot flat on the floor and the computer takes care of everything for you. So that's my thinking. And so I'm looking for comments. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a few guys tell me that I think I already had one when I talked about this at an earlier video. You're going to get past just before the flag stand, but we'll see if that's true. If it's not, we'll build them another engine, right? And this will be a great street engine. It's going to make over 500 pounds of torque and over 500 horsepower, and it's going to be fun to drive. And if it doesn't work good in a race car, we'll put it in the street car and build another one. So I'm going to push it outside and start it up and let you hear how it sounds. It hasn't run since yesterday, and we got to load it up and get it ready to go to the dyno here on Sunday morning. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. Keep our channel growing for us. Growth. In YouTube, you grow or die, one or the other. And that means I need to get new subscribers. I need likes and shares, all that stuff. YouTube looks at that critically. And if they think you like it, they send it to somebody else that might like it. And that's how you grow. So basically, I'm asking you to give me a reference by doing that. Please like and subscribe. Hey, I like to just point out a couple things. It's always good to give me suggestions that I should mention. I've already mentioned these headers are just here for now. On the dyno, they'll be turned to a normal way. Mike's actually bringing down the headers out of his car, and we'll actually dyno it also with the headers out of his car. The carburetor on is just my shop startup carburetor. We will experiment on the dyno with the 750 HP carburetor that Daryl has. As I said, Dave Forrest is bringing a couple other carburetors down, and one of them is a vacuum secondary. We're going to try that. That might make it a little easier to drive. But a couple other things. It's a circle track engine. So why is it different? What makes it different? If you look at the valve covers, because you're always turning left, okay? So all the oil in the corner, this car will pull probably about 1 G in the quarter, maybe a little bit less, something around there. All the oil wants to rush to the outside of the car. So we use a valve cover with no openings. And then the valve cover breathers are on the left side of the car where there's not going to be any oil in the corner. If you look down at the oil pan, for the same reason, the pan is shaped that way because all the oil wants to run to the right side of the engine. And so there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 trap doors in that pan. The idea of it is it holds the oil from going to the right side of the car during the corner. And then the door is open again when he goes in the straightaway to let all the oil get back to the oil pump. It's also, that's a 7-quart pan, but it's very shallow. It's only 6 inches deep. And the reason for that is the shallower the oil pan is, the lower you can get the engine in the car. That's critically important for any race car. You want all your weight as low as you can and as close to the left side of the car as you can. And so in the corner, that pan will be coming within 1/8 of an inch of dragging on the track. And it may even drag on the track once in a while. It does happen, okay, if they don't get the settings right. But that's why it's shaped that way. So let's start her up and see how it sounds. So make sure everything's turned on here. A couple quick points. The engine hasn't been run since yesterday. There is no choke on this carburetor, so it's a cold start. But I've already started and run this engine for probably one full tank of gas, which is more than a half an hour. Checked everything, it's all good. One of the things to point out that I didn't mention so far is I do have a cloise adjustable camshaft timing device on this engine, so I could change the timing on the dyno. And when Bill ran his computer program on this engine, it showed that if I advanced the cam to 104 degrees center line instead of 110 degrees center line, I would gain about 20 foot-pounds of torque and I think 4 or 5 horsepower or something like that. But I didn't do that. And here's the reason why. It's the cam on straight up at 110 degree. And I don't have the cam number, but we will, on the video, when we get to the dyno, we'll provide all the details of exactly what camshaft it is and all that stuff. But after I ran it for a little while, I checked the compression, and I've got about 180 PSI of cranking compression, and I don't want any more than that. So if I advance the cam, I'm going to increase the cranking compression. Once again, I want Mike to be able to race this thing with pump gas, and 180 PSI is kind of my limit. If I advance the cam, it's going to be more than that. And I'm not worried about that last 10 or 20 foot-pounds of torque and a few horsepower. I think managing this engine in a 2,500 volt car will be more important. And I'm pretty sure he's going to have all the power he needs. So hope you found that interesting. Watch the follow-up. We will make a full detailed video on the dyno, multiple carburetors, also comparing $100 Amazon HEI distributor to a $1,000 MSD racing ignition setup. Let's see how that works. Thank you for watching Gold's Garage.